Welcome everybody, Mike Martinez, and today I don't have my co-host here, Mr. Sensei Juan, but I have a good friend of Sensei Juan who Sensei put us together so we could do this together today. It's Born to Win Conversations #8, and I got Lee Schwartzberg from Queens, New York, a martial artist, fellow martial artist, and a businessman, and we're going to get into that stuff. Lee, thank you for joining me, man. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah. I want to kind of start with your background in martial arts, and I know you're an EMT now, and you also run a business. But let's just take it piece by piece. Let's start with what started you with the martial arts and things like that.
So the irony about that story is I was the only Jewish kid growing up in a German neighborhood in Lindenhurst back in the early 80s. And for whatever reason, I had an affinity for the martial arts at an early age. And I asked my parents, I'm like, can I join, I want to join karate at that time. They're like, oh, it's this much money, da, da, da. And I said, okay, I'll get a job. So I got a paper out and we started martial arts. My first foray was Matsubayashi Shoin-ryu martial arts. It's a very traditional art for those of you who don't know. And from there, my love of it just got greater and greater. I studied, we're now in almost 30 years of studying martial arts up into, the last foray into a new martial art was Marine Corps martial arts, where I was a black belt instructor for the Marine Corps. And different kind of view when you look at it from the purely combat perspective, using it in the field versus the martial aspect of mind and having it as a spiritual way of life.
Yeah. And that's a great segue for my next question, because I know Sensei Juan and I talk about this a lot, and you and I have had conversations about, using martial arts as a form of personal development and spiritual development and obviously physical development. What are your thoughts on that?
It's a great question. We had this conversation a little while ago, and we could have stayed on the phone for probably 3 more hours talking about this. So let's expand upon it while we have an audience. So the spiritual growth, the physical growth, the emotional growth, the self-discipline growth, it's based on 2 factors, in my opinion. It's based on not so much primarily your instructor who's instructing you, but how open you are to receiving the information, and then how open you are into giving it over to, okay, if this is not working in my life, and someone who's done it before says, let's do it this way, let's try it this way, right? If you don't approve or you don't believe it on a cellular level, on a chemical level, you're going to get that serious motivation for maybe, I don't know, what is it, like 3 hours or so, and when you're there, and then when you leave, right? Then it's going to be like Jim Rohn says, it's going to be like deodorant.
Right.
Eventually, you got to put it every day because eventually it wears off, right?
Right.
So as far as that's concerned, you really need to look at it on a daily basis and figure out what it is in your mind and in your life, because everybody's different, but we're all the same. We all bleed red at the end of the day, but our belief systems are different. And the irony, I just had a conversation with a bunch of paramedic partners and some doctors in some hospitals about belief systems in the medical field, right? For another topic. But the belief systems it's a choice. What do you believe in, right? Mike, when we spoke about yesterday, we spoke about higher power. We called it a higher power. We called it universal vibrations, God, whatever
right
you want to give it, but there's something out there that's better than us or bigger than us. And, I digress. So let's talk about a self-discipline aspect of it first. Discipline is a choice every single day, every single time. Are you familiar with the definition of insanity is?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. right? Do you know what the street definition of integrity is?
No.
Doing the right thing when no one is looking, right? So that's your self-discipline in its purest form. It's doing the moral compass points north every single time. It doesn't point north when it's just easy for you. It points north when you have to make the hard decisions, the decisions that will cause people to look at you differently. The decisions that say, hey, I know this is the right thing to do, but I'm really only doing it by myself. And that's the self-discipline, knowing the right thing to do and doing it anyway.
Yeah, very good, man. Very good. Very well said. And going back to your point about the beliefs, there's two schools, I think. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to look at martial arts, but I believe when I moved to the New Jersey area, I was coming from a very traditional martial arts school, Japanese martial arts, very traditional. And when I came over here, I'm looking, and all I heard is, oh, this is a great fighting style. Oh, you'll be able to kill people. You'll be able to go to the UFC. You'll be right. And that wasn't what I was looking for. I was looking for, in the martial arts that I was in New York, that instructor was about, you come here, you beat yourself from yesterday, from the last time you got here, right? Yes. And that's what makes a big difference as far as the mindset is concerned. One of the interesting things that they found out just recently is that like 80-something% of the top CEOs in America have martial arts experience, right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's part of the discipline that they learned, and it's part of the discipline that made them successful. So what are some of the lessons that you, as a martial artist, take into your business?
Well, it's a great question, a great point, in that the first thing I remember, 13 years old, joining martial arts, going every Saturday. I had a job. I had a delivery job. I had a paper route. So I needed to pay for my martial arts training if I wanted to go. That's just how it was back then, right? So the first thing I remember about discipline was, if I didn't get up every day and do my job well enough to keep my job and get paid, I could not go to the martial arts classes. I could not go to my 3 times a week. The love that I had for it, the affinity that drew me to it, and that discipline drives me in just about everything I do as far as my business is concerned. Because we are humans, we are creatures of habit, and sometimes we lose our motivation, or we lose a direction, and we lose focus. I mean, raise my hand. I always lose focus, right? But I know that the discipline of it is, okay, recognize you're losing focus, retrace your steps, bring your thought process back to where you are, and move forward. Now, granted, I have a little bit more familiarity with discipline. Being in the Marine Corps for 10 years, Marine Corps boot camp is all about discipline. It is 95% mental, 5% physical. All right, maybe 90-10, right? Depends on your physical shape when you get, right? But it's 90% mental, and you have to learn discipline, as far as discipline enough to do the small tasks, so that when you're in what we call garrison, when you're in, the barracks, or when you're stateside and you're on your base, or wherever you're located, right? That discipline transcends into the unlikely event, or the likely event is, if you got to go to combat, you're disciplined enough to know that, okay, this is what we have to do. This is what needs to be done. You watched it work. If you don't have that discipline, people are going to die. And you may die if you don't have that discipline, as the extreme example. Yeah. As far as business is concerned, I get up, I look at my to-do list, and I'm like, all right, I really don't want to talk to these people. Remember, Mike, we spoke about this. People drain you sometimes when you talk to them. They just suck the life out of you. But some people, you have to talk to them. You have to get whatever issue it is resolved, or whatever business concern is, you have to get that to look forward. And that discipline enables me to make those phone calls and have those conversations and do the little things that you're not, and Chinese is called Kaizen,
Mhm.
the little steps, you know,
Little
every
improvements.
right increments, right? A
Mhm.
grain of sand, millions of grains of sand make a beach. One grain of
Mhm.
sand is not, but one grain of sand on top of another, on top of another, and that's the discipline, you know. And I wish I could break it down in a much more philosophical manner, but that's
No,
what it
I
means
got
to.
you. I got you, man. I got you. And I'll tell you what, one of the things that I learned from martial arts in my particular school where I spend the most time, 20 years in, we used to have promotions every 2 months, right? And during promotions, we would have full contact sparring without gloves, without headgear,
Yeah.
without chest protectors, just, and it was always, as you get higher in rank, you're dealing with people that are much more experts, and it's a tough thing, man. But you had to face that fear every 2 months. You had to face the fear and do it anyway, just like you're talking about. Sometimes I got to face somebody I don't want to face. I don't want to, not because I fear them, but I just don't want to be in that situation. But you gotta, right? So, and I'll tell you what, a lot of times I remember thinking, because all the promotions were on Sundays, I would get up and say, "Oh man, I got promotion again today," right? And you don't want to get there. But then once it's all over, you say, "Man, I overcame that fear," and you feel strong and good about that. Another thing I could tell you, man, and you could tell me what your perspective about this is. My instructor was very much into the unification of the mind, body, and spirit, right? So you're
Right.
doing you're doing 500 punches, let's say. And at 300, your mind is already saying, "Oh my God, I can't take it. My shoulders are killing me. My back, I can't move another inch. Oh man, I hope he stops," right? But
Right.
he's yelling in your face, "Come on, 50 more," right? And
Yeah.
it's like you just get energized and your mind is pushed to another level and you break through that. You know what I'm saying? So,
The breakthrough for sure.
yeah, yeah. So, what was your experience with that, and how do you correlate that to business?
So there's an acronym about fear. You know the acronym of fear? Hear
False
this?
evidence appearing real.
Right. Or face everything and rise is the second one, right? Depending
Okay.
on where you come from. So what that was a beautiful point you brought across where you said your mind overcomes it. And when you're getting someone in your face motivating you properly, right? Your mind, you realize that it's mind over matter, right? And then there's an old saying that goes, "It's mind over matter. If you don't mind, it don't matter," right? And then yeah. So you have to understand that once you break through that barrier that's here, your body is an amazing machine. There's so much more energy, so much more you have in reserve that you never get to tap into until you break that point. And once you grasp that concept that you have a lot more energy in reserves, when you translate that into the business world, it expands exponentially into things that you want to do, right? Your creativity. Once you break through that barrier of "I'm not that creative," and you realize that, "Oh, wow, I need to be creative," or "I need to pay someone to be creative, but I can't do that now because I just have a brand new business." So your mind overcomes that and says, "Hey, I am creative." But you don't know that until you're tested, right?
Right.
You never tested to the limits where you fail. For anyone who's ever worked out before, anyone who's ever done anything to what they call failure, you don't know what your breaking point is. So once you find out what your breaking point is, you can build on it. And then you can say, "All right, my breaking point was here this week." Remember what you said earlier, be better than yourself yesterday, right? I always told my kids, you never judge yourself against anybody else. You judge yourself against who you are and who you want to become.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing for business. Where are you now? Are you, whatever, are you making 100 grand a year? You want to make 100 grand a month. You're here, you got to go here. What is that breakthrough? You have to know what your limits are to go further, to be able to say, "All right, I'm making 100 grand a month, 100 grand a year now. If I want to make 100 grand a month now, I have to do this, this, and this." And you have to push yourself to the limit. And then once you find out what your limits are, you push yourself even further. And you never would have learned that, or very few people would have learned that if they're not in the martial arts early on. I don't know what they do now in the beginning stages of martial arts, right? All those, we call them McDojos. They pop up. They charge you, whatever, $5,000 for the year, and you get belts, regularly scheduled promotion belts, not that you've earned them.
Right, right.
Once you earn it, it's a much bigger accomplishment than saying, "Oh, here you go. You paid $5,000. 3 months later, you got your yellow belt. 6 months or 8 months later, whatever it is, you got your blue belt or whatever your rank caste system is." And then you don't learn. The kids don't get that appreciation of having to earn it. And in the martial arts world, as a side note, the martial arts world I don't want to say this in a way that offends anybody else other than those who need to be offended by it. If you're giving away belts for money, you're not giving them what they need. You're taking the money, but you're not giving your students what they really need.
No doubt about it. Yeah, no doubt about it. Now, one of the things that you brought up is what you teach your kids, not to be better than anybody, to just challenge themselves and improve upon what their last result was. And I'll tell you, when you do that, when you go and a lot of people do that, they focus on, oh, look at this brown belt. He throws the kick this quick, or he does it with this accuracy. And so you're trying to match or better them. But what if their cap is here, right? And you could really, if you push yourself, you could go way beyond that, but you're just looking to meet them at this level, right? So that's why, who says, where is your best? Nobody could say where your best is, right? So that's why that is important. Now, let's talk a little bit. Let's shift this to your business, because you got a very interesting website. I spent some time on it. It's POMT.org. Again, that's P like Peter, O like Oscar, M like Mike, and T like Tom.org. And it stands for Peace of Mind Training. So
Yes,
give me a little information on that.
all right, bro. Peace of Mind Training was born out of my love to help people, my desire to want to see people do amazing things that they didn't know they were capable of doing. I've been teaching CPR, first aid, AED for 16, 17 years, been a martial artist for 30 years, spent 10 plus years in the Marines, and I learned a lot of different things about life in general. And then more importantly, life taught me what I needed to see. And I'm still learning every day, still refining every day what I want to do and how I want to bring this to people. But the basic premise is empowering ordinary people to master modern life-saving skills, one person at a time, one class at a time, right? I want to bridge, and this is controversial, what I'm about to say, because in the martial arts world, because I want to bridge the gap, right? Guys like you and I, Mike, we're experienced martial artists. We have a lot under our belt, blood, sweat, and tears. No lie, blood, sweat, and tears invested, right? So I'm trying to bridge the gap in the 20 or 30 years. Like Mike Albertrelli said, you have 30 years as well, right? So between us, we have 60 years of experience, and it took us 20 years to get proficient in our minds where we needed to be, to where we're comfortable with moving to the next level of learning, right? So I want to bridge the gap between that and in today's society, understanding that, you know what, you may not have 20 years to learn this if you're being attacked right now. And this, and I hate to say this environment we live in, the social economic environment we live in, people are off their rocker. They're crazy. They're unpredictable at times. I don't have to bring up the Asian community issues, but I do. When I do bring that up, I say, okay, so what do you guys know? Other than you need situational awareness, that's the very first thing, right? We teach situational awareness because that's the first part of your self-defense repertoire before you even get physical. If you have to get physical, so many things have failed. So many things have gone, all right, well, I didn't see that, or I missed that cue, or, I may not have saw that coming. What? The boxer's old adage of what's the only punch that ever knocks you out? The one you don't see coming.
Right.
You never really see the punch that knocks you out. So in in what we do at Peace of Mind Training is we take it as a group, as a whole, and we allow you to understand that you're human. Everyone else is human around you. As long as you're situationally aware, and then let's break that down for a second. What is situational awareness? Understanding what your norms are, understanding what is not normal, understanding what we call left of bang. Left of bang is the incident. Being left of bang is 10, 15, 20, 30 seconds before the incident. And those are prime scene indicators, prime survey indicators, prime indicators of individuals that you were watching. You know, this situational awareness, I can go on for hours, but more importantly, it's a mindset. It's looking at everything. Stop the zombie apocalypse. Here, let me get my phone and show you. Stop doing this. Can you see me? Yeah, stop doing this in your phone and walking in, right? When you're in the subway, when you're on the street, stop that. That you are now saying to whoever wants to attack or aggress, saying you're an easy target.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Right.
on that, we teach CPR, first aid, AED, stop the bleed. We teach pet first aid and CPR. And for my love, I have 2 puppies, 2 dogs. They were here, but they ran away, so they hear me talking loud. And so on the outside of that, if the event happens, the bang happens, I want people to know that they can be their own first responders as well. The longest 11, 12 minutes you'll ever have is calling 911, waiting for either a cop who may or may not have an AED, you know, automated external defibrillator if you're in cardiac arrest, or you may or may not have a stop the bleed kit or a tourniquet in a really bad situation or an assault situation. So I want people to know that those 10 minutes you can be spending on your speaker, put it on speaker, talk to the emergency dispatcher, say, hey, this is what I got, this is what I'm doing. And they're treating. You can self-treat too.
Right.
You can treat your loved ones. You can treat your pets on top of that. And then we go about the other angle of that. We talk about self-defense, right? So that's what I'm talking about, bridging the gap in its entirety. In my mind, because of where we are in the world today, I don't believe that you should have to wait 20 years to learn, to be able to defend yourself physically, socially, psychologically, and emotionally. I don't think you should have to wait. I don't believe you should have to wait 20 years. Mike, you and I both went through blood, sweat, and tears. We know what it's like to earn that.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
If we could impart a little bit of knowledge, or maybe a little bit more knowledge, into the white belts, the uke, to the beginner, to help them, then for me, that's what my soul is calling.
That's good. That's a beautiful thing, man. That's a beautiful thing. Now, you do this as an organizational training system. So you go into organizations and train teams of people at one shot?
Great question. Yes, we do, but that's not our only focus. I'm trying to get into the civilian world where everyone who needs to learn, and this is the thing about it, right? This is what I struggled with for a little while. And it's a great point for discussion. Who needs this training, right? It's a combination of 4 or 5 different things. Who needs this training? Everyone, right? Cops need situational awareness. They don't get that in the academy. They have to get that on the street. EMTs, paramedics, doctors, they get the CPR first aid training. They don't get the self-defense issues. They don't get the situational awareness issues. You know, they may not get the combat application of a tourniquet because they are either pre-hospital or hospital and they don't do it that way. So everyone, and you know, it's a broad spectrum, everyone, but people who want to learn how to do life-saving skills, how to be extraordinary, how to learn, and I mean extraordinary in times of conflict, in times of left of bang, when bang happens and boom, your event took off. Something exploded, you crashed, you got beat up, you got shot, there's an active drive-by or active shooter. We also teach active shooter safety and safety response. So in the beginning of that, it's all about, all right, there's a lot of things that we're doing, that Peace of Mind training is doing, but it's based on one concept, situational awareness. if you could be situationally aware and you can save 5, 10, 15, maybe 30 seconds before bang, you are unequivocally saving your life and saving, not figuratively, literally saving other people's lives. And that's what it boils down to. Yep. And then because we're human, we make mistakes, we miss cues. When bang happens, I want you to be able to not only know how to respond, I want you to be able to respond physically and psychologically, because that's what we train. Understanding that the psychology of self-defense, the psychology of a traumatic event is much different than viewing it on a video, right? Mike, when's the first time you missed a block in a sparring session and you're like, oh man, and you get your hands up and you're like, and all of a sudden your hand drops and your opponent takes advantage of that and clips you. The first thing you think of is, oh, this hurts a lot.
Right.
You know, Mike Tyson said it best. He said, people they don't remember what it's like to get punched in the face, and everybody's a keyboard warrior, right? Yeah. When the literal shit hits the fan, you have to know that once your adrenaline pumps, your blood pressure goes high, your heart rate goes above 140-ish, you start to lose. A lot of people don't know this. You start to lose your fine motor skills. All you have is gross motor skills left. If you lose your fine motor skills, you can't grip anything. All you have is your gross motor skills. Put your hands on somebody, right? So we train understanding that concept. Take a deep breath, relax, refocus. What happens when you hold your breath? You know, physiologically and chemically, we can discuss, you know, what happens with oxygen, but that's not this particular program, right? So breathe. Right. How many times did you learn how many times did your sensei tell you to breathe, or don't hold your breath, or you got to do it this way and exhale on impact, right? People don't understand that. That's why, like, bridging the gap to me is so important, because when you hold your breath, things don't happen as smoothly and as quick as it's supposed to, right? Slow is smooth, smooth is fast.
Right. Very good, man. Very good. Yeah, very, very good. You know, I love the fact that, you know, I think a lot of people look at martial arts from the outside and they say, you know, I admire that stuff, but I can't see myself going to a dojo and stuff like that. I love the fact that you're taking kind of like the essence of what martial arts does mentally, mostly, right? And preparing the mind for the actual situation and dispensing that to the regular public, because like you say, I mean, there's when you're aware of your situation, situational awareness, you look at things in a totally different way. But most people don't even understand what that phrase is, right? They've never heard that phrase. They never got the concept of that. And as a martial artist, you and I both know that, you know, you look around, hey, there goes a stick just in case I need it, or just in case he's going to pick it up, right?
Opportunity.
Right. So, you know, so that's a beautiful thing, man. The fact that you're translating your martial art training and making it for the common man. Now, we're going to end this, but let me ask you this. In ending, what would you say to a person? How would you invite them to look at your website and to pick up the phone and give you a call? What would you say in closing?
So in closing, if you are ever concerned about, you know, and I say this wholeheartedly with as much sincerity as I can muster, if you're ever concerned about your own safety and concerned about getting help quicker to you, be your own first provider, be your own first aid person, be your own situational awareness person, be your own self-defense guide. And you can do that by jumping on www.peaceofmindtraining.org. Scan through the website. There's a contact button there. You don't need to email me. If you want to call me or text me, feel free. 631-484-5542. That's my personal cell phone. Only I pick that up and I answer that on a daily basis. Come take a look. There's something you might like or something you didn't know you need.
Yeah, very good, man. Very, very cool. I appreciate, Lee, you spending time with us today. Again, this is, Born to Win Martial Arts conversation number 8. And it's a great, great conversation. I think you shared some really powerful things with me and for anybody in the New York area that sees what, or do you go beyond New York?
Yeah, I tri-state for now. Absolutely.
Okay. So anybody in the
Jersey.
tri-state area, make sure you reach out to Lee and say, hey, I saw your interview, or hey, I was at your website and I would love to have some of this training for my organization or for myself, on a one-on-one. And Lee will take care of you. Lee, thank you very much for sharing your knowledge and your experience. Truly, truly appreciate it, man.
Mike, it was my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, man.
All right. Take care.